year 2017 we added the how-to series, and so thanks for coming out. Again, we want to be able to offer these informal conversations with experts such as Bill Lawrence. So thank you for coming tonight. Bill Lawrence runs his Bill Lawrence Personal Fitness on Chestnut Street. I think a lot of people in the audience are familiar with Bill. Bill has been a bodybuilder since 1997, was when he started, and he did it for 13 years and has been running his business since 1999. He has a couple of titles to highlight his successful career. In 2002, he was a national bodybuilding champion, and then in 2006 and 2008, he was part of the Team Universe as a champion there, which allowed him to earn the designation of being on the USA team. So welcome, and thanks so much for coming tonight.
Thank you. So everybody, thanks for coming. I really appreciate it. As some of you know, I was a little bit nervous. I was honestly afraid that my mom was going to be the only one that showed up today. So I was like trying to get the word out as much as I can. I think I was driving Don Roten nuts because I kept emailing him saying, is anybody coming yet? Do you know if anybody's coming yet? And he's like, people are going to come, don't worry. So I'm really happy you guys are here. Some faces I know. I'm glad that there's some faces I don't know here. So that means we got some people from the outside. I've done talks multiple times ever since I started doing this. Back in 1999 is when I started writing for the Meadville Tribune. And when I started doing that, I also started doing a lot of talks at schools and hospitals and all kinds of different clubs and organizations. And typically what I'd always do is talk about what I do for my business and basic nutrition, basic weight training, what people should be doing just to stay in shape. And I've done that a million times. I could do that talk with my eyes closed and think about it. I guess you can do any talk with your eyes closed. You don't need your eyes open to do a talk. But you know what I mean. I could do that talk easily. So when Don approached me and said he wanted me to do a bodybuilding conversation, I was kind of intrigued by it and kind of excited at the same time, because I figured I would approach this a little bit differently than I've approached just your basic nutrition talk. So if you came here in hopes of just hearing a basic, here's how you eat, here's how you work out talk, I'm sorry to disappoint you, because that's not what I was planning on doing. I actually want to talk about bodybuilding, in the sport of bodybuilding, but also, and I talked to a lot of people that said, hey, I was thinking about coming, but I'm not a bodybuilder. I don't ever plan on being a bodybuilder. And I get that. Most people don't. It's a very, very small segment of the population. However, we do have two of them back there. So there's two people can relate to what I'm talking to. But I want to show people, kind of like give you some insight to what it was like to compete all those years. And hopefully I can, tell you some things that are interesting that you'll enjoy. And also how you can use what I did all those years to, things you might want to accomplish for your own physique, losing body fat, building muscle, just changing your physique in any kind of way. In fact, I like to always say that anybody who works out is a bodybuilder. That's the way I've always looked at it anyways. So just because I chose to take it a couple of steps further, get leaner than most people, work on getting your skin real paper thin and getting your vasculinity and all that kind of stuff so you can oil up and stand on a stage for a while in trunks, I chose to do that. But it's really no different than people working out every day at gyms all across America to change their bodies, because you're still bodybuilding. Because I was doing competitive bodybuilding, where I like to think that most people in a gym are still doing bodybuilding, if that makes sense to you. Just maybe not to the level that I was doing it. However, I will talk on that later, how things have changed a lot since when I was bodybuilding. So, also I wanted to say, I'm really happy to see some of the people here, and I don't want to point anybody, I can go through, pick everybody out, but ever since I started my bodybuilding career, I've had a lot of people that have been with me right from the very beginning, through all the ups and downs, and seen all the sides. I've seen when I was irritable, when I was dieting down for a show, and all the ups, winning shows and feeling great, all the way down to being disappointed because you don't place like you think you should have at a show. And my mom's here, and I'm really excited. She was at every single show I think I ever did. And of course my wife is here. She had to put up with me through all of that. And also Joel Eidbo's here, who was, I think, trained with me for every show I've done. I think he's been with me for every single show I've done. So you can't maybe tell, but he's got the physique too. But no, I do thank Joel a lot though, because Joel was the kind of guy that, I'm gonna turn this whole thing into a roast of Joel Idville. No, so, because Joel was the kind of guy that I needed, because when you're competing for a show, that you're getting ready, it's all about how you look that day, that moment on stage in front of those judges and those people. So the whole time when you're competing and you're getting ready for the show, you're constantly looking in the mirror, seeing how you look, doubting yourself at times, sometimes thinking you look fantastic. And it's weird because it's almost like when you go out, say you get dressed to go somewhere. I'm talking to the ladies right now. You get dressed to go somewhere and you ask your boyfriend or husband, how do I look? And part of you just wants them to say I look really good, but then part of you wants the honest answer and you don't even know what you really want to hear. Does that make sense? That's kind of how it is with bodybuilding, because you kind of want people to go like, you look great, but sometimes you needed a guy like Joel to go, you know, last year you were a little bit leaner at this time out. I still remember him saying that for shows, and at first I'd be mad, I'd be like, stupid Joel. But then I'd be like, he's right. You know what I mean? So, and that's the kind of stuff though that goes on in your head while you're getting ready for a competition. It's way tougher mentally than it is physically, getting ready for a bodybuilding competition. And because of that reason, because it's how you look that day, and you can, believe it or not, look so different from day to day, especially towards the end, and especially in your head. You think you wake up one morning, you think you look fantastic, you're like, I look awesome. And then that night you're like, I look terrible, you know, and it's amazing how it just ups and downs. But anyways, the whole bodybuilding and why I got into it, actually started a long time ago when I was 13 years old. My older brother, Bruce, who's also here, I don't want to mention him, give him any credit, but he was into lifting weights, and I wanted to do it as well, you know, because obviously you want to do what your brother does. So I got into bodybuilding, I started lifting weights, and right away I was very fortunate that I just responded very well to weights. You know, like some people, they do something for the first time, they get really good at it. I just responded very well. Or as my son wanted me to say, I didn't choose bodybuilding, bodybuilding chose me. And I say that kind of joking, but also kind of true, because I did respond well. And when I was only like in 9th or 10th grade, I started to develop a physique that was, you know, you could see could be a bodybuilder someday. I started to have a peak on my biceps. I had a six-pack and that kind of stuff. So then I wrestled also in high school, and then I wrestled at Edinburgh. And I remember I was getting ready for a wrestling match, and then I put my singlet on, I was getting ready, and my one coach, Coach Flynn, he looked at me and he said, you know, I don't know what you're gonna plan on doing after wrestling, but you really ought to be a bodybuilder, because you really got a physique for it. And I'd always kind of thought about it till then, but I never really, it kind of crossed my mind, but I didn't think I'd really do it. And that was actually one of the things that, he probably doesn't even remember saying that, but it really stuck in my head. I was like, I would kind of like to do that. So that's when I started really getting serious about it, and started really looking into how to actually become a bodybuilder. So what I started doing was I started looking at who are the very successful people in bodybuilding. And also I should mention, this is all in natural bodybuilding, so no steroids or anything like that, no diuretics or anything. So I started looking at these people that I'm sure that none of you, well, most of you have probably never heard of, like names like Skip LaCour and Derek Farnsworth and Jeff Willett and these kind of guys, Chris Faldo, that no one else knew, but me being a bodybuilder and following the natural bodybuilding circuit, they were amazing. I mean, the physiques they were able to build. So I spent a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of energy talking to those people. Literally, I would email them, and just out of the blue, like Skip LaCour he was a real big influence on me. And I remember I just emailed him one day, and I'm thinking he's probably like part of a big company, and he'll never actually get this email, one of those deals. And he emailed me back like an hour later, and it was like, what do you want to know? And I was, you know, so I started corresponding with him, and the next thing I know, I was talking to him on a regular basis and kind of learning what he did to look like he did. And then I started looking at other people and talking to them. And what I always tried to do was not look at what's the special thing that this guy did to look a certain way, but I tried to look at what is it that all of them have in common? What do all of the really good people do the same? So I was never looking for that special what's the magic bullet? What are they all doing alike? And that's kind of how I developed the routine that I did my whole bodybuilding career, which I won't get into and bore everybody with. But basically, doing that is also what got me started doing my Dream Team competition at my gym. Because the way I always looked at it was, Dream Team should kind of be like getting ready for a bodybuilding show. You should stay in really good shape year round. And then I would usually diet for anywhere from 9 to 16 weeks, depending on how I was looking in my off season. So I made Dream Team 16 weeks. And that was kind of the idea is, okay, you should look good year round, and then starting here, you have 16 weeks to kind of diet down and see what you can look like. And that was kind of the whole idea of why I even started doing that, which is, turned out to be really big. We're gonna do our 18th or 19th Dream Team coming up in January. So, and that's the idea. So, one thing that's different about being a bodybuilder than any other sport is that it is an absolute, and the people that know me and have had the unfortunate experience of living with me all the time, being around me during all this, it is a 24/7, 365 days a year kind of commitment for very little accolades, very little notoriety, except for from the people around you. In fact, I learned that the hard way when I really started winning some pretty big shows. In my mind, they were big anyways. I thought it was a big deal for a short time. So I would win these shows, and I started thinking like, well, people are going to want to learn from me now, like people all over the world. So and then I started looking around, and I realized that every town or every big city kind of has a guy like me already. You know what I mean? That was already kind of doing these things. And I realized, well, maybe it won't be a big national thing, but I at least want to get out to the people that I can reach, how I do things. So anyways, life as a bodybuilder is like I was saying, it's a very 24/7, 365 days a year thing. And you always live it, and you do it because you love what you're doing. If anybody ever comes to me and says, I want to do a bodybuilding show, in fact, some people in this room have talked about doing bodybuilding shows, I'm always asking them, are you sure? You have to love doing it. Because you get quite miserable sometimes. And I've always found that if you don't love the journey of here's where I'm starting and here's where I am on stage the day of the show, if you don't love this, then it's not worth it. Because the day of the show, these national shows that I did, I would go to New York City. My family and friends would fly to New York, to Atlanta. I think Miami was one of them. And I'm literally on stage for a minute the first time. You come out and you do a whole, like a minute, if that. You go around a circle, they take you off the stage. So if you're only doing it for that day, then you're probably not gonna enjoy it. You have to really enjoy, kind of like the misery. You have to kind of enjoy, I know that sounds sick and weird, but you have to enjoy the misery of kind of dieting and getting ready for a show, which I did. I thought it was fantastic. I used to love doing that. In fact, I was just telling a group the other day, of a group of people at the gym. I think Neil, you were there. A couple other guys. And I was talking about how when I'd get ready for a show, sometimes I would have to do extra cardio. So I would go to my gym on a Saturday night, like 8 o'clock at night, and do my cardio with nobody else in the gym. It'd be completely quiet. I'd go in, it's dark in there, and I would see people going to the local bars, Mickey's, Chippers, and that stuff like that. And I know what I'm going to sound like. I'm going to sound very narcissistic. My wife should have been at that conversation you were telling me about living with a narcissist. And I think that's helped me get through it though, is I would kind of in a way feel like I'm better than you because I'm doing this. And I know that, that's not necessarily right, but that's the kind of thought that would carry me through it. Like anybody can go drink, anybody can go party, anybody can go eat whatever. I'm choosing on a Saturday night to go do cardio by myself in a dark gym. And that kind of stuff actually motivated me. Like I enjoyed doing that kind of stuff. And I felt really good about myself doing that kind of stuff because I knew that most people will not do that. Most people would say, oh, I can't do it. And so I obviously never was going to settle for that kind of thinking. So I would always try to, and do the best I can. So it's total dedication, 100%, especially then as the show would get closer, it would, narrow down and you'd get a little bit crazy and all that kind of stuff, looking how, seeing how you looked. But at the end, I always thought it was worth it. There was never a show. And then when I look back in the 13 years I did it, I don't regret one single moment of it. It was absolutely fantastic, and I really enjoyed doing it. One thing I also learned though, that people could, apply to their own way that they look at exercise and staying in shape is 2003 was the year that for some reason, in between, after I did a show in 2002, and I was going to do a new show in 2003 with a new organization, I decided that I needed to get bigger to do a show. So that, in between those two shows, it was like 10 months, and I wanted to see how big I could get, physically. So I ate more, I lifted heavier, and all that kind of stuff. And I got up to 185 pounds. That was the heaviest I weighed. I compete at 154 pounds. So you're talking about a 30-pound weight gain. So, I mean, my shirts were really tight on my arms, and I felt really good about that, and I was super strong. But dieting for that show was, in fact, when I talk to my clients, the ones that have been with me for a really long time, I see someone like Kathy over here and Renata, and they say, oh man, you were really bitchy. It was 2003 is when it was, because reality sunk in, and I was like, I only have 13 weeks and I'm 30 pounds overweight. And that's when, I started having to, double cardios, cutting the calories way back. I would wake up on a Sunday, eat egg whites, go do cardio, come back because I'm tired because my calories were so low, sleep most of the day, go do cardio again on a Sunday night, wake up, and that was just kind of how it was. And so, I did well at the show, but after that is when I learned, hey, why get so big when I got to cut down to 154 pounds anyways for my shows, because that's the weight I look best at. So after that is when I started never going above roughly 170, 175 pounds. And I actually did a lot better competing after that. That's when I started winning the bigger shows, was when dieting didn't become that hard then. It wasn't that hard. I say the word dieting, but I was in such better shape starting that the road wasn't nearly as miserable. So that's something you can take, people that do my Dream Team contest or just in your own life, don't let yourself get out of shape, because it's just that much harder every time you get out of shape to get back into shape. So you just get in shape and just stay in shape is the way to do it. As was said earlier with the introduction, just so you know that I do kind of know what I'm talking about a little bit, is I do have some career highlights so I started bodybuilding in 1997. Like I said, just not really knowing exactly what I was doing. In fact, the first show I ever did, I only learned posing through a guy named Jerome Coffey. He's still around Meadville. He showed me a couple poses, but I didn't really know him that well. And I remember going on stage, not really knowing everything. And they call us out, and you walk out there, and I walked out with everybody and just kind of looked to see what they were doing. So and the judges are like front double bicep, and I would stand like this, and I would just kind of look here, and I'm like, okay, they're all going like this. And I just kind of did that, and they'd say turn to the side, and I would just follow what they were doing. And I took fourth, and it was my first show. But I really enjoyed it. And then in 2002, I won a national championship. Then I went to what's called the NPC, which is the most competitive of the organizations you can do in bodybuilding. Just like other sports, there's different organizations. The NPC is the one that's probably the most difficult to do. In 2006 was probably like my highlight of highlights. That's when I won my weight class in what's called the Team Universe, and I got to be on the United States team and go to the Czech Republic and compete in the Czech Republic, where I took 15th, but it was out of 72 countries. So it doesn't sound great, but it felt good. So, and that was awesome. I did that again in 2008. But then the national champion, or the world championships in 2008 were somewhere in the Middle East, and they didn't send us for obvious reasons. So I didn't go again. And then, so I competed up till 2010 because when I was done doing the Team Universe is known as the biggest, most credible, drug-tested show you can do at the time. I don't know what it is now, but at the time that was the best show you could do. And I won my weight class twice, so I felt really good about that. But then I wanted to compete against the guys that do steroids and that stuff. Even though I didn't do them, I wanted to see how I would do. So I did what's called the NPC Nationals, which was in, I think, Miami the first year. And my plan was that was going to be my last show. But I went to it, and for some reason I was thinking, because the guys a lot of them are on steroids and these kind of things, I thought I needed to be bigger. So I didn't get quite as lean for that show as I normally do. And I took 5th, so I was happy about it, but I wasn't super happy because I know I didn't look as good as I should have looked. It wasn't about placing top 5, although I did reach the goal of placing top 5, but I was very disappointed with that show. That was one of all the shows I did, that was one of the ones I was most disappointed in, because I tried to come in with a different look than I normally would have. So I did one more show in 2010, and I did the same show. I did the NPC Nationals, and I took 4th place, and I just honestly felt like there's nowhere to go from here. Like, I've done it, and have 2 kids, and I really want to focus on the business. So 2010 was the last year that I competed. One thing I want to talk about real briefly, and then I'll open up to any questions. Hopefully I have at least 1 or 2 questions, is how things have changed since I was competing. And it's just, I notice this a lot in my gym and just around, even if you go on Instagram or Facebook, or if you hear people talking, or just in general, it's just different now. And it's not worse, it's just different. When I was competing, or when I was lifting weights, my goal was always to look better. I never cared ever about how much weight I could lift. I could care less. Somebody, hey, I bench pressed 100 more pounds than you. I don't care. I looked better on stage. And that was all I cared about, was how do I look on stage when I'm competing. The numbers that I lifted were never important to me. Obviously, you're always trying to get stronger, and you feel good when you do a weight that you've never done before, but it was never the number one goal. Nowadays, it's just different. People are way more into functional fitness, lots of functional workouts, CrossFit and these things, which are great. I think it keeps people in fantastic shape and they look great. But it is different than when I was competing, because I was all about isolation exercises and just trying to work on individual muscle groups. Never cared about my PRs of my squat or anything like that. And it's just changed. So, I don't know what you would take from that. I think it's just the natural progression, just that life goes around, and maybe 10 years from now, people will be doing more, bodybuilding type workouts, or maybe nobody will ever again. I think bodybuilding has actually died down a little bit since the days I was doing it. I even noticed as I was competing, the last couple shows I did, where it used to be the bodybuilders had this huge pump-up room you would go into in the back to get ready. And the last 2 or 3 years, it got a little smaller, a little bit smaller show. So, and more people were doing, more of the women were doing, Kyle, what's it called? Physique. We're doing the physique shows, and the guys were doing physique shows. So bodybuilding got a little bit smaller, but it's still my favorite, is bodybuilding. Can't say I really follow it that much anymore, but to me, it was my first real passion, and still a passion of mine to this day. I still am focused on it. Like when I'm thinking about my workouts, what I want to do or what I'm going to eat, it's still always the bodybuilding mentality, that I live by. So, it's a lifestyle. It's been a lifestyle since 1997, and it's a lifestyle in, what year is it now? 2017, and I don't see it ever not being a lifestyle. So, one other thing is I made this guide. It's right here. I don't know, you might think it's stupid, I don't know. But so I made this guide. Remember I told you that story about how when I started winning shows, I thought maybe I was gonna be something, real big. So I made this thing, I called it Finish the Game, because I thought, that's what it's all about, is that contest prep, is finish. I always like that saying, you gotta finish the game. I think that to myself a lot. I used to always think it when I was getting ready for shows. So I made this guide back in like 2007 or 8 or somewhere around that time. I made this. I wrote it on my computer, and when I knew I was doing this talk and I didn't know exactly what I want to do, I started going through my old files on my computer, and I found this document called Finish the Game, and I even made a cover for it a long time ago. This is an old cover. So I printed out the cover, and I printed out the whole thing, and I put it together in a binder, and I have 3 of them, and we're going to give them out to 3 people that, just like as a gift, I know, and you can flip through it. And basically what it is how to, not that I expect you necessarily use it like you're getting ready for a show, but hopefully you might find at least some of it interesting, because basically what it is starting with your quote unquote off season of for a bodybuilding show, and then what I would do with my diet and my training and my posing and my tanning and then all that stuff, my coloring and everything, to get ready for a show and all the way up to what I would do the final week of the show. So you might find it interesting to flip through. Like I said, I have 3 of them. I think Dawn somehow is going to figure out which 3 people get them. And then if anybody wants one, email me. I'll give you at least a couple more. I mean, I'm not going to make like 30 of them, but if someone like really wants one, I'll print one out for you. Okay. So it's called Finish the Game, and we're going to give out 3 of them once Dawn's ready. So that's my basic bodybuilding talk right there. I hope you find it somewhat interesting. But does anybody have any questions about anything with bodybuilding, what it was about, what it was like, anything at all? Someone needs to ask at least one question, because otherwise they're going to watch it on TV and it'll be like, well, no one had any questions. So there you go.
What are the differences?
Yeah. Okay. So there's all kinds of. It used to be just bodybuilding. You had men bodybuilding, women bodybuilding. Now it's just bodybuilding, and I don't even know if I know them all right now. But then it got from bodybuilding. There was just men's bodybuilding. Then there was women's bodybuilding and women's fitness. And women's fitness was more like a routine you would do. Like they would do like a cartwheel and handstand and push-ups and stuff like that. But they also had to look good. So that was part of it. And then women's figure became really popular because they wanted women that were not as hard looking, not as muscular, but still in shape. So that got really, really popular. But then women's bikini came out, and that blew up because they wanted, and I hope I'm not wrong here. Again, Kyle and Bernadette might know better than me because they've done shows after me. They want women that are way softer, just have nice physiques. Like I always thought like a girl you see at the beach with a nice physique, that'd be a bikini. Am I right? Basically. And then men, they started doing bodybuilding, and now they have men's physique. In a men's physique, you wear like board shorts instead of the little posing trunks that I got to wear on a regular basis. So it's so many of these people in this room see me walk around in my posing trunks. They're like little underwear. They're like little skippy. And you guys how many times people that have been in for a long time, I'd pull my pants down, like right in the middle of the gym, right? All the time. I did it all. Kathy Boslow's seen me in my underwear probably more times than my wife has. I just pull them down and say, like, how are you looking for a show? And I'd be like, well, take a look. And I just stand there. Luckily, I did have my trunks on every time. So I never forgot. Anyway, so in men's physique, they don't want quite as big, not quite as cut, and they wear like board shorts instead of that. And then there's also women's physique, which is like women's bodybuilding used to be, but I think they've gotten rid of completely of women's bodybuilding basically, and it's women's physique now. So. Pat.
Bill, did you talk about that 17-minute cardio in theory?
I did not. Good question. So one thing I'm kind of known for in the area is our crazy cardio that we do. And when people go to other gyms and do our cardio, they get a lot of stares like, what's wrong with this person? Why are you doing that? Because it looks odd. Because what I started doing, which is way different than everybody else, and I would go to these shows and I would talk to people, and they would all tell me about the multiple cardio sessions they would do for 1-2 hours at a time. A lot of guys I would compete with, when we talked backstage, they would do 4 hours of cardio a day and stuff like that. I never did more than 16 minutes of cardio at a time. I still don't do more than 16 minutes of cardio. So when I would do my cardio, my whole thought was, get your metabolism up as fast as you can, and then let your body burn calories all day long. And it's called Max OT cardio. And it's actually something I learned from Skip LaCour, when the guy I told you about who I was talking about earlier. And usually it's done on a recumbent bike is the best way, although you could really do it on any piece of equipment, or you could even do it like sprinting or whatever. But the whole idea is to go 16 minutes as hard as you can for 16 minutes, and then your cardio is done for the day. And what's hard about people understanding that, unless you see it, is when I say as hard as you can, I mean, if someone doesn't know what you're doing, you would be at a gym and people would stare at you. Like, I don't understand what this person, you should have seen this guy at the gym today or this girl at the gym today. They were like on a bike like a crazy person. Because it should be, in fact, I wanted to show how old I am and how long ago so I left it in here. That guide that 3 lucky people will get. I wrote in there about doing cardio, and I wrote in that guide, get yourself a good CD player. So there, it shows right there. And headphones with a Linkin Park CD. So there shows you when I wrote it. That's the year. Whatever year Linkin Park had a popular CD is when I wrote that guide. So, and I wanted to leave that in there because, to show you. So anyways, Pat, the whole idea is to do, and now how many times a week I would do that would absolutely depend on where I'm at with my physique and my body fat levels and how long I had until my show. I only ever did is, I never work out just to work out, ever. I still don't. I don't work out just to work out. It's always with the purpose of what I'm trying to do. So to me, cardio is a fat loss tool, period. That's how I always looked at it. It's to get my body fat down. If I don't need to get my body fat down, or if I don't need it to stay the body fat that I'm at, then why am I doing cardio? So I would usually actually when I was younger, like when I first started doing my shows, I didn't do any cardio, zero cardio for about the first 3 years probably I competed. I didn't do any. And people would find out, like I'd go to a show and they're like, how much cardio do you do? You're ripped. And I'd be like, nah, I've never done it. And because to me, it's all about the eating. Eating is way more important. But then as I got a little bit older, I did start doing a little bit more cardio, but I still usually didn't do more than maybe 5 cardio sessions a week. I think that show I was telling you about earlier, the one in 2003 when I basically got too fat, for lack of a better word, got a little too chubby. I was doing 8 cardio sessions, maybe 9. I know I did every day and then multiple on some days. But that was a rare occasion. So usually it was like 4 a week, 4 or 5 for 16 minutes. And that would keep my metabolism up, and that's how I look at it. In fact, if anything, instead of doing like another session, like an hour session, I would be an advocate of just in the middle of the day, getting on a bike and going for 10 minutes as hard as you can. Because I always, picture if you had a quarter and you spin it, right? You do that thing, like this, and you watch it spin. Picture the quarter is your metabolism, okay? And the torque that you give it, that's how hard you're doing your cardio. And if you just kind of go like that lightly, it won't spin very long, right? So the way I would look at it is, if you only do light, easy cardio, you get done doing it, the metabolism stops, you're not burning any calories afterwards. But if you go like this, real hard, right, that thing will spin for a long time. That's kind of how I picture like your intense, is this analogy making any sense at all to anybody? Okay, so sometimes I start talking, I don't know where I'm going with it. So I would picture that's your intensity, and the longer that would spin, that's like your metabolism burning and burning. I would get more nervous before I do my cardio session than I would before doing like a heavy set of squats or deadlifts or something. I would procrastinate on it like crazy. Anybody ever saw me getting ready for a show, doing my cardio? Say I get to the gym to do cardio at 7, I wouldn't actually do it till like 7:30, 7:35 because I gotta get on that bike. I knew it was gonna be so hard. And it's something that's hard, difficult to get across to people how hard you should go. Because I'll see people do their cardio and I hear about doing cardio, and sometimes I want to say, you don't understand how hard you're supposed to do it. Like way harder than you're thinking. But that's also how I applied myself to my weight training also. I didn't, as Joel can attest as my workout partner since 1999 or whatever we've been working out together, never long workouts, never a lot of sets, never really a lot of reps, just very focused though. Very focused, like this set is absolutely everything you've got this set, move on to the next exercise. Do 1 or 2 warm-ups, whatever, move as hard as you can, move on to the next thing. And that's kind of always how I approached my training all those years. Give me at least one more question. It'll be embarrassing if I don't.
Everybody signed up? Everybody signed in?
One, there's always one. Yes?
Bill, you talked about Dr. Joel, how important a workout partner is. How important is a good workout partner, whether you're getting ready for a show or just working out?
That's a great question. To me, it's one of everybody. I believe everybody's different here. So for example, my younger brother, Blair, who's also was an amazing bodybuilder, still has an amazing physique and runs our CrossFit program, which is an awesome CrossFit program. If you want to do CrossFit, you should come check out his CrossFit program. There's my plug, okay? He, for example, I've seen him work out crazy hard by himself. Doesn't need anybody, doesn't need anyone telling him anything, that just goes, and that's great. I've always been completely different. So I think it's individual in each person. I need energy. I'm an energy person. I'm an extrovert. I like people to be around. If it was up to me, I would do a set of curls and I would have like 20 people come over and watch me do it. Like that would I would do better if everybody in the gym came over and watched me do a set of curls. That's true. So I like that. So I feel like it's not necessarily like I don't need them to necessarily say motivational slogans or something while I'm lifting. Or the spotting obviously is important because you can't go to full failure unless you have somebody to, for safety reasons. So that's just one reason. But more it's the energy. For me, it's always been about the energy. I can't stand a silent weight room, where you hear yourself breathing and weights hitting. I've always hated that. I like music. I like energy. I like talking and that kind of stuff. I like to goof around a little bit, so even though we work out really hard, even when I was competing, and we might be laser beam focused, I was never like walking in the weight room like, don't talk to me, I'm working out. I was always way more, and I'm not lying, am I? I've always been way more like still, even when I'm dieting down, I'm more of a social, I need to get energy off of everybody in the gym. And I'm still like that. I know it's annoying probably to some people. So so it's an individual thing, I think. But personally, me, I think you gotta have a good workout partner. And I'm fortunate enough to have a couple of them. Another question, yes?
Don't you think it's become more individualized now, depending on what you're doing?
Do you mean just working out in general?
Well, working out in every aspect, whether
Yeah.
you're soccer, whether you're football, whether you're weightlifter.
Oh, yeah. I mean, everybody's got their own agenda of what they're doing, and you have to train for what you think is.
Whether speed, whether agility, whether
Right.
strength.
And even then, I've never been into necessarily like, sports specific training. Like to me, even if someone played a sport and wanted me to help them, I'm always happy to help them. But my first thought always was, if you get leaner and you get stronger, you're gonna be better at your sport. So I don't know if you're necessarily, I'm not necessarily gonna teach you how to jump better or to run better, but I always thought that's something that a coach should teach you how to do. But if you work out right and eat right, and take the same principles that I did with my bodybuilding, you're gonna be a leaner person, you're gonna be a stronger person, you're gonna perform better. So that's how I've always looked at it. RJ, you had a shaving question.
I have a question. When you were competing, did you ever have like an injury that like sidelined you and made it really difficult to do anything? And if you did, how did you get?
Yes, that's a good question. A couple of times. I've been pretty fortunate to never have any major big injuries, but I'll give you 2 examples of things that did happen. 3 actually. Okay. So one, and I learned a lot about myself and a lot about just life in general from each of these things. And thank God I had really good people around me to keep me motivated actually, because one of them was I had hernia surgery in 2005. And afterwards, I was getting better, I was allowed to work out again, I was gonna do the Team Universe in 2006 for the first time. And online, and there wasn't much internet back then, on the line, so they moved the bodybuilding show up by, I wanna say 3 or 4 weeks. So I had 3 or 4 weeks less to get ready for the show. And I was all excited to do it, and I was like, oh man, I got a hernia, and I'm just getting better, I can't work out yet. And I remember talking to my younger brother, Blair, on the phone, and I told him my whole situation. And if anybody knows Blair, they're not gonna be very surprised about what I tell you he told me. So I was like, Blair, man, I got the show, they moved it up 3 or 4 weeks, and I couldn't work out because I had the hernia surgery, so I gotta put on muscle, plus I'm not as lean as I should be, so I gotta build muscle, lose fat, I lost 3 weeks. And he said, well, Bill, I think it was Bryan Adams that said, ain't no use in complaining when you got a job to do, from the Summer of 69 song. And I remember I was like, you're right. And I have all doubts, and immediately just like flip the switch and like, well, the judges aren't gonna care that I lost 3 weeks or I had they don't care. You don't walk up on stage and go, before you judge me, I want to let you know that I had a hernia surgery, and this is how you look. So I had to knock all that out. Also then, one more story is, I hurt my bicep. Not horrible, but enough that it hurt to do any kind of back exercises and bicep exercises. And I had maybe 3-4 weeks out from a show I had to do. And again, I've just been fortunate enough to have like such great people around me. And I went to Edinburgh to see, I still visit them sometimes, but I'd always go and visit my Edinburgh wrestling coaches, Tim Flynn and Lou Roselli. They were huge, huge role models to me. And I went to see Lou Roselli just to see how he was doing. I just hurt myself not too long ago. He asked what I was doing. I told him I had a show coming up. I was like, yeah, but I hurt my bicep and I can't train biceps very well and I can't train back very well. And with zero hesitation, he said, well, I guess you better do everything else that you can do that much better, shouldn't you? And I was like, yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like this like little thing, like I stopped immediately feeling sorry for myself that I couldn't do it. And I'm like, I guess I better diet better, do my chest better, and do everything I can a little bit better and do that. But as far as major injuries, I really try to follow the adage, listen to your body when it whispers and you won't hear it roar kind of thing. Have you ever heard that before? But I kind of try to live by that and be smart. Like if something's bothering me, I won't do it, I'll stop. Especially now, I do it even more now than when I was younger. But you have to listen to your body. And don't try to be a superhero in there. If something's bothering you, there's good hurt, like, oh, I'm doing leg extensions and my legs are burning because I'm doing a lot of reps and there's lactic acid. Then there's bad hurt, like, oh, this is pulling wrong on my chest. You know what I mean? So you have to understand what the difference is. And don't try to be a superhero through the bad hurt. That's just stupid. You're just going to put yourself out. So just stop. But I've been pretty fortunate. And I stretch out really good. I loosen up. I warm up. My first exercise, I do quite a bit of warm-up sets. And again, also as I've gotten older, I do more and more of the warming up so that I'm ready to go. So, anybody else have any? Yeah.
You mentioned food a couple of times.
Yeah.
Can you touch upon that?
Yeah.
How you would regulate your diet? What would you cut out?
Yeah. Also, if you're fortunate enough to win one of these, it's written in here. It's in there. Real basic. I won't go into the whole nutrition because I could, sit here and bore you for hours with nutrition. But I've always, since I started competing, and all the way till now, have followed basically the same nutrition plan. I started really getting into nutrition a long time ago when actually my mom's always been into nutrition. She's over there hiding in the corner. And so I learned a lot from there. In fact, didn't I make you taste my first protein powder to make sure it was okay? I did about protein powder at GNC when I was in 7th or 8th grade. Something like that. I was like, see if it works, Mom. And she did. She drank. She's like, oh, it's good. So, but my basic diet has been multiple meals a day. At least 6 meals, usually 7. But when I would get ready for a show, something interesting that you would find surprising is as soon as I get ready for a show, the first thing I would do is I would add more meals. I would make my meals smaller and eat more of them. So if I was normally eating 6 or 7 meals a day, I would work myself up to 9 or 10 or even 11 meals a day. And when I say a meal, it was really small. But I would eat basically almost every 2 hours I was awake. I was eating. And usually it was some sort of protein. And as I got closer and closer and closer to the show, less and less what you would call like starchy or high energy complex carbohydrates, and I would replace them with vegetables. So I would start with your typical diet of just 6, 7 meals a day, protein every meal, vegetables with at least 1 meal, maybe 2, carbs, potato or rice for dinner and that kind of stuff, a couple pieces of fruit, your basic diet that a bodybuilder would follow. Then as I was trying to get leaner and leaner, if I took something out, I would usually replace it with more vegetables. And I would never really cut my protein out, but I would make my protein portions smaller and eat more meals throughout the day. So now I'm maybe eating 11 meals as opposed to 7 meals, but my protein's actually the same because I would just make them a lot smaller meals and add more vegetables. Usually towards the end, when I was like a week out from a show, I was eating somewhere between 13 to 15 servings of vegetables a day. Somewhere around there, usually. So, and that was the basic diet. And that would also slowly cut out my fats as I went by. So I never really ate a lot of fat. I actually eat a lot more healthy fats. I don't want to bore everybody with all this stuff, but I eat a lot more healthy fats now, which I think is a good thing, than I used to. I never ate a ton of them. Usually it's only maybe, if you were breaking it down, it'd be like maybe 20% of my diet at most, but I'd cut it down the last couple of weeks to basically, there's a supplement called CLA, conjugated linoleic acid. I would take 3 of those 3 times a day, and whatever was in my tuna fish or white fish or turkey would be the only fats I would eat. I'd cut out all my oils, peanut butter, nuts, any of that kind of stuff. So basically by the end, before I would do that last week, my diet was vegetables, lean protein, and I would always eat, I would always have like a very high energy, like dextrose drink, sugar drink after my workout. Even no matter how lean I was trying to get, I would take a shake that has dextrose in it and protein. In fact, we sell that at our gym, and we have a supplement company. that's third time, so I think that's enough. So they said I could plot my business a little bit, so I did 3 of them. Yes?
What about the protein that you have at the gym versus what you buy at Walmart?
Protein there's a lot of different brands out there, and they're all different. And basically what you want to look at is, I don't know what all the different ones are at GNC and Walmart and all that kind of stuff, but basically if you're buying a protein powder, you really should have 2 different ones. You should have a pure whey protein isolate for right after you work out, and arguably first thing in the morning. You should have a whey protein isolate. And then all your other proteins throughout the day, your protein shake should, if it's not real food, if you're having a protein shake, should be a combination of fast and slow releasing proteins. And there's people could argue it. That's just what I believe in, because when you have your protein throughout the day, you want to get some amino acids that get right into your body really fast, and you want some that break down really slow. So I've always had one that has a casein and whey protein isolate in it. So you're getting it throughout the day. So, yes?
You mentioned this about the importance of stretching and whatnot. What's your philosophy on core strengthening and the importance and value of stretching, especially as we age?
You're going to find this answer like not what you think I was going to say. But I think actually a lot of the core work people do, and don't get me wrong, it's important. You have to have a strong core. But sometimes it gets overdone and overrated. And I say that because I'll see some people just spending every day, spending 20, 25 minutes on their core, which your core is basically your stomach and your lower back, this whole area right here. But if you just follow a good basic weight training routine, you're working all those muscles on a regular basis. So people that are spending hours on an exercise ball, and I think it's a good thing, by the way, an exercise ball, doing your abs on there. And you can even argue doing exercises like even benching on an exercise ball. With the stability, there's some argument that's a good thing to do. But if you're doing really heavy squats, heavy deadlifts, lunges, where you have to keep your body up like this, you're getting a ton of core work. Or even like, it might sound silly, but like tricep push downs. If you've ever done tricep push downs, if you're doing them really heavy, so you're grabbing a weight and you're pushing it down, and so you have to stabilize yourself and push it, your abs are like what's holding you there the whole time. So you're getting a ton of core work anytime you lift heavy weights. That being said, I would always do my abs usually 2 times a week. Do extra stuff a lot of times on the exercise ball. As far as stretching, I'm a fan of dynamic stretching before you work out, which basically means stretching with movement. So it's kind of like, I don't want to demonstrate them all here, but it's stretching with moving, not holding the stretch. So before I work out, like I don't do a lot of like, hold it. I don't do a whole lot of that. It's more like stretching, like walking lunges, that kind of thing, moving your body lightly. That's most of the stretches that I do to get ready. If you're gonna do static stretching, ideally you should do it after you work out. And enroll in a yoga class as well would be a good idea. So, any other questions about anything? Hope you found that at least got something out of it. I don't know. Again, it's a talk I'd never given before. I really enjoyed doing it. I really enjoyed getting ready for it because I really liked. I haven't looked at the old bodybuilding pictures and stuff in a long time, so it was fun to look back at all the old shows and stuff I did and reminisce to myself about them a little bit. So I just want to really thank all of you guys for coming. I really appreciate it. I was super nervous. I'm never nervous when I give talks, but I was nervous about this one for some reason because it was a different topic. And so I didn't know if you'd find it interesting or if people start walking out 10 minutes into talking. So thank you for coming. Much appreciated. And Dawn is giving out...
Pick a number between 1 and 34.
1 and 34. I'm going to pick 7.
Oh.
Lauren. There it is. There it is. Your dad will love that. 22.
Nancy Sida?
Oh, all right. There you go.
Thank you.
Mike will be having that on his bedstand, be looking at it all the time. That's creepy. Let's go like an early number, like 4.
Ron Casimir.
There you go. There you go. If anybody, honestly, if you want one, I could probably put one together. Email me, text me. But just a little something I put together I made a long time ago, so enjoy it. Don't throw it away while I'm here. All right. So, everybody, I don't think I forgot anything. That's basically what I want to talk about. I want to thank the Beeville Medical Center for inviting me to do this talk. I really enjoyed it. I had a good time with it. So, if you have any future questions, you can always email me, trainer@windstream.net. I'm also pretty easy to find at my gym. So, thank you guys for coming. Appreciate it.
What's the next one? You said this is a continuous thing?
There's a series. I don't know what the other talks are, when they are.
We have one more in December. It's going to be about opioids, and then we have another whole calendar starting next year. So January, we have, this is the how-to series, so that's the 4th Tuesday of every month, and the 2nd Tuesday of every month is a general Ask the Expert. So ranging from gardening, to Bill, everything between.
We had woodworking, we
Woodworking,
had cardiologists talk about broken hearts.
Living with the narcissist as Bill. I'll invite Sarah to the next one.
So if you share your email, we'll share with you the calendar for 2018, which will be finalized in
Hey, thanks, guys.